In the quiet town of Hollowville, few imagined that the serenity of its cemetery concealed unsettling stories. This place, seemingly just a refuge of peace, held secrets many preferred to ignore. It was a spot where silence prevailed, only occasionally broken by the whisper of the wind through ancient trees. To most, just an ordinary graveyard, but as night fell, it transformed into a realm of mysteries. In this mist-shrouded environment, strange events began to occur, disturbing the residents' peace and fueling rumors that something sinister lurked in the darkness. Those who dared enter its gates after sunset reported seeing shadows moving on their own and inexplicable murmurs seeming to rise from the depths of the earth. Gina, a brave and curious young woman, decided it was time to uncover the truth behind these stories. Fascinated by the unknown and driven by whispers from friends and neighbors, she embarked on an investigation promising to be more terrifying than anything she had faced before. Armed with a flashlight and a camera, Gina prepared to unveil the mysteries the cemetery held. With a mix of excitement and dread, Gina stepped into the cemetery, determined to capture evidence of the inexplicable events. Her footsteps echoed in the silence, and the feeling of being watched appeared quickly. Every step made the air feel denser and the world around her more sinister. It wasn't long before she realized she wasn't alone. Surrounded by an invisible presence, the distant laughter made her skin crawl. Gina knew this night wouldn't be just an exploration, but a journey, testing her courage and sanity. It was a typical cold night when Gina, challenging her fears, decided to enter the Hollowville cemetery. Since she was young, she had been drawn to stories of mystery and horror, but never imagined she would be at the center of one. The desire to explore the unknown grew after hearing endless reports of strange events occurring there. With her heart pounding, she recalled the scary stories her grandparents told about the place where shadows seemed to come to life. Curiosity outweighed fear, and her hands trembled slightly as she opened the rusty gate. Gina kept her eyes sharp, trying to capture every detail that might help uncover what really happened there. However, nothing would prepare her for what she was about to discover. As soon as she crossed the cemetery entrance, the feeling of desolation took over the atmosphere. Only the sound of the wind could be heard, stirring the leaves of the ancient trees, whose presence seemed to hold centuries-old secrets. Gina felt a shiver run down her spine, as if the very ground whispered unfinished stories. The cold of the night enveloped everything around her, intensifying the feeling of being under constant watch. Wherever she looked, she imagined quick movements in the shadows cast by the gravestones. Gina knew she needed to stay calm to be able to record any evidence of the legends she had heard for years. Her determination was pushing her forward, even though each step seemed to open doors to unknown elements. Walking through the narrow, winding paths, Gina came across ancient inscriptions on some tombstones, the worn letters telling of lives abruptly ended. She contemplated the history she never heard, etched into each one. Each step deepened the feeling of treading on sacred ground where time seemed to have stopped. The flashlight in her hands was the only source of light, gradually revealing details hidden by the darkness. Since entering, she had already lost track of time, immersed in the intriguing and somber atmosphere. The silence was so profound that her own breathing seemed intrusive in this space. Gina hesitated for a moment, wondering if she was ready to face whatever truth she might find. Then, in the distance, she noticed a faint glow standing out in the gloom. Curious, Gina followed the light, her heart beating faster and faster. As she approached, she realized it was a solitary candle lit on an ancient grave. The flame flickered, casting dancing shadows on the cold stone. Gina couldn't explain the candle's presence, but felt it was a sign. The mystery seemed to deepen with each discovery. On impulse, she decided to investigate, and as she stood there, the sense of a nearby presence grew stronger. She knew she needed to move forward, but something inside her hesitated, increasing the aura of suspense even more. With a flashlight in hand, Gina cautiously moved through the dark paths of the cemetery, determined to uncover the truth hidden in the shadows. The graves, lined in silent rows, seemed to watch her, each guarding its own story. The tall trees swayed softly, and their leaves whispered ancient secrets. Gina Gina knew even the smallest signs could hold clues to the strange events occurring there. She took a deep breath, focusing on the task and trying to push aside thoughts of fear. Suddenly, a soft sound echoed in the air, like distant laughter, intensifying the mysterious atmosphere. Every step she took seemed to echo louder in the unsettling silence. The temperature suddenly dropped, enveloped by a mist that made everything around her more indistinct and surreal. Passing by a time-worn stone figure, Gina felt the sculpture kept a watchful eye on her. The flashlight began to flicker, heightening her sense of vulnerability. The wind began to move the leaves with increasing intensity, as if warning her to turn back. Yet Gina, undaunted, refused to be swayed by fear. She held on to the hope of capturing something on video to validate all the stories heard around town. As she moved away from the entrance gate, the cemetery's aura took on a more surreal and immersive quality. Gina paused as she heard a soft melody, like an almost forgotten folk song. The sound seemed to emanate from the trees, resonating among the graves. She approached the sound carefully, fearing to disturb whatever the source of this mysterious serenade might be. Her mind wavered between believing in natural phenomena and accepting that something inexplicable was accompanying her. The flashlight finally went out, leaving her at the mercy of the darkness. Even so, Gina pressed on, guided by instinct and an unwavering desire to unravel the cemetery's secrets. The more she explored, the more the sensation of an invisible presence intensified, as if something or someone watched her closely. Gina found herself compelled to glance over her shoulder constantly, dreading to glimpse something unexpected. However, the persistent darkness seemed to hide any visible clue. Suddenly, the trees nearby started to creak, as if announcing an imminent change. Every sense of logic and survival instinct demanded that she stop, but her determination pushed her forward. Amid the battle between reason and curiosity, Gina realized that this night would be a test of her strength of will and courage. Suddenly, Gina stopped as she spotted a nebulous figure floating among the tombstones. It appeared as an ethereal veil, almost translucent, winding softly through the cemetery. Fear paralyzed her for a moment, but her resolve to understand the inexplicable drove her forward. She knew the stories were true. Something supernatural dwelled there. The figure gradually vanished, leaving an eerie silence in the air. Gina took a deep breath, every cell in her body alerting her to the looming danger. An unease reigned, as if she was about to witness something beyond comprehension. With every fiber of her being on high alert, Gina felt the environment around her pulse with unknown energy. The cemetery, once so silent, became a stage of enigmatic sounds. Distant laughter and sighs floated through the air like echoes from times past. The atmosphere was electrified, and Gina sensed she was on the threshold of a revelation. She couldn't prepare for what was to come, but her resolve remained firm. The path she chose was filled with anxiety, but at its core, it carried the promise of hidden truths about to be unveiled. As darkness swallowed the surroundings, Gina noticed subtle movements in the trees, as if invisible hands were shaking them. She felt small before forces she couldn't explain, but excitement outweighed fear. A nearby whisper caught her attention, and she quickly turned, sure she would find someone there. Yet the night remained silent, mocking in its inscrutable nature. Adrenaline coursed through her veins, each moment making the experience more intense and surreal. Gina was in the presence of something extraordinary, with revelation awaiting impatiently on the horizon. Tension peaked when a cold wind howled between the tombstones, swirling leaves around Gina. She realized she was facing a decision: retreat to safety or confront the direct manifestation of what she believed to be the supernatural. With a glimmer of renewed courage, she took the next step closer to the inexplicable, every fiber of her being heralding the imminent climax. Gina was sure that by crossing this line, she would cease to be just a passive observer. She would become an integral part of the story that intrigued her so much. When Gina confronted the unknown, an unexpected understanding overtook her. The shadows around her seemed to tell stories lost to time. The sound of gentle laughter filled the night, now without the intention to frighten her. It was as if the cemetery was offering answers long sought. A sense of peace enveloped her, dissipating the fear that had consumed her. Gina realized that what she was witnessing was an interaction between the past and the present, a living memory imprinted in that ancient land. In this moment of clarity, she understood that the peculiar events were a call to to understand and respect those stories. As she delved deeper into this new understanding, Gina began to perceive shapes and voices, echoes of lives that once thrived there. A feeling of connection to everything around her emerged, and she felt as though she was in tune with the essence of the place. Recalling the legends that fascinated her, she saw in them fragments of truth she could never have imagined. Gina was filled with deep compassion for those untold stories, deciding that her mission was more than mere curiosity. It was a calling to share these experiences so others could also perceive the beauty and depth of her discovery. With a new perspective, Gina took one last look around before leaving the cemetery. Although the shadows still moved, she now saw them as guardians of ancient secrets, silently present in the world of the living. The journey she began from mere curiosity had transformed into an exploration of meaning and history. Every whisper of the wind, every murmur around her now seemed soothing instead of threatening. Gina felt lighter, as if an unknown burden had been lifted from her shoulders. Now she was ready to bring these stories to the world, not as tales of terror, but as lessons of beauty found in the unexpected. As she left the cemetery, a newfound and revitalizing certainty accompanied her. Even in the darkest places, there are stories waiting to be told. Gina had found her purpose, transforming the initial fear into a lasting source of inspiration. Each step that night brought her closer to her own truth. Rather than ending her quest, the journey was just beginning, with promises of more discoveries ahead. Gina became a living witness to the strength that resides in curiosity and courage, ready to embrace the unknown with an open mind and fearless heart.